Have you ever wondered how the dynamics of your family, generations after generations, play out in your own money mindset and your own money results with your business? We are going to address that in today's episode with an amazing guest that I have for you. Hello and welcome to the Money Mindset Show, the place where we help female entrepreneurs to transform their mind so that they can achieve financial success in the least amount of time. Here, we talk about subconscious mind, we talk about money mindset shifts, money mindset blocks, a strategy so that you can bypass your own money mindset and increase your income, better your relationship with money, and grow your business. On this podcast, our unique goal is for you to walk away with a different perspective and with a different set of thoughts, beliefs, and mindset that helps you in your journey to achieve financial success.
It's really good to be here. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited. For folks who are listening, my name is Meenadchi. I use she, her pronouns, and I use a couple different modalities. But when it comes to money, I use family constellation therapy to help people clear out a bunch of intergenerational gunk that has to do with how or why they are not allowed to have and receive and be in alignment with money in a values-oriented way.
My God, I'm already want to ask you so many questions about family constellations, but let's just start introducing to people on your story and why you came to really do this combination that is not traditional at all with money.
Yeah. So my story, I think if we start in childhood, I had a good money story in childhood. I grew up in a very safe home. I grew up like my amma, that's my mother, was the predominant breadwinner, and she made sure everything was always taken care of for the entire family. And so in addition to having a sense of physical stability, I also saw the way that she moved with abundance in terms of there were often people staying in her house. Like it was my family's from Sri Lanka, so it was at the beginning of the war. So there were often refugees who were moving through the Bay Area in terms of just asylum journeys. So people were always over. It felt like the home was always a place where people were welcome to be and resources were meant to be used in support of the community. And I think the biggest thing that I saw my Amma do was that she never loaned anybody money. She only ever gave. So it was really this idea of work with what you have. And then when you have overflow, you can give. It's not about trying to get it back or something like that. And then I had my own life story. I went into the arts. I went into nonprofit. I got accustomed to living without a lot of money and also feeling really angry about the way systems are set up and the way there's inequity in terms of access to resources. And I began to get really angry about all of those things. And I think that for me, I think one of the very common money myths that is out there is that money is inherently evil. And I really began to believe that and really began to feel like that was true. And then I started working with some money coaches. I met some queer money coaches, some people, queer women of color who were doing magic with money. And things started to change again for me. And I started to believe some of the things that I had heard about money being a neutral entity, about money being an energetic entity that really wants to show up for us as a resource. And when some of that stuff finally started integrating with my nervous system, my own abundance started to move and flow. And then as I began to facilitate work for folks, it also began to show up there where I began to see just facilitating work for folks and then having folks come back and say that they'd had the most lucrative day in their business the day after we worked together, or that they felt like Oh my gosh, I can fight for what I believe in, and I can have access to material stability, and the two are not at odds with each other, and that felt really good too.
Oh my God. I want to unpack so many things of what you just said, but especially this last part when you said that your nervous system started to embody what you already heard and knew to be something different, right? This is so important. And right now, before jumping in this interview, I was actually recording a whole episode of the podcast about emotional regulation. It's like everything changes when you understand that your nervous system and you need to be in an emotional regulated space for you to embody what you already know with money and to open the gates for that to change. And then you said, my clients started to see that change too. I find that so fascinating because just like you, I also experienced the same. When I went to school and when I had my finance degree and when I checked all the boxes to learn how to manage money, in no part of the equation was, hey, there is this new layer that you need to find, that you need to work with, which is your emotional side of money that triggers you, that puts that or triggers that anger within you. It's not just about, oh, I feel anger per se. It's a topic, it's an object that triggers you. And that emotion, it's not even talked about. So I love that you mentioned that your nervous system started to regulate to it. So talk to us a little bit on how you really experience that regulation.
Yeah. So, one of the principles that I learned is that money will always amplify what's in the system. So, if what's in the individual nervous system or what's in the intergenerational nervous system is like a clog or a knot of trauma or just any kind of, we all have limiting beliefs. We all have, doesn't matter how much
We
work you
all
do,
do.
it doesn't matter, right? So, what money does is it comes into the nervous system and then it amplifies that, right? So, as for my own self, as I have started getting, I don't know if I want to say good with money, but better with money, safer with money, more trusting of money, it both flows in with a lot more ease and it flows out with a lot more ease, that there is a fluidity to it, which is really what money is supposed to be like. If you think of like our society, our community, like a human body, blood is meant to circulate and it's meant to move throughout the body. It's meant to be in nourishment. Just like in the human nervous system, there are times when we need blood to move faster, like when we're running or when there's like a crisis, something is going on. There's other times when blood can just chill out, go a little bit slower, bring the heart rate down. And money is the same. And I don't know if I'm answering the question anymore because now I'm just thinking about this
Love
image.
it. Love it.
Yeah. But I think for me, and I think for me specifically as a small business owner, as an entrepreneur, as a self-employed person, money still freaks me out sometimes. Last month, my business did 21K, which was excellent, so wonderful, so good. This month so far, I've probably hit $300. And I know that there's pieces of my nervous system that are like, oh, but the large majority of my nervous system now trusts and knows that things are going to come in and it's going to be okay because I do good work and because money wants to be with me and money wants to be in the accompaniment of that work. And because I've seen it so much now with my clients, because for me, just there's a difference between like how a therapist still needs a therapist, just because there's something that you can facilitate for somebody else. You still got to have somebody holding the space for you. When I facilitate work for clients, it shows up like magic how much money just wants to be with them and love them and support them. And it's so beautiful to watch when that nervous system gunk does get cleared out.
And I want to add something else to just like blood, that example. I loved how you put that example because it really it's like that. It just flows, and sometimes your heart needs to pump faster, and it gives blood to run, or whatever what you said. But also notice the fact that you always have blood. You never run out of it. You never ever are thinking, am I going to have enough blood or not? You are certain of that. I absolutely love this example, because just like that, it's money. Why would you ever think, I'm not going to walk today because I'm saving the reserves of blood for tomorrow so I can, I don't know, I can do whatever tomorrow better? No, you are not thinking that. You're thinking, tomorrow I'm going to do this thing that I want to do. And today I'm going to do this other thing that I want to do as well. So you are never thinking from a place of lack with your own blood, with your own body. Yet you are so smart, and your brain is so smart with it, that it gives abundantly when it has to give, when you desire. Because this is the thing. I say when it has to give, but you are creating that necessity. You are telling subconsciously to your brain, I need more blood on my legs because I'm going to run. So it's giving you what you are asking on a subconscious level without really worrying about it. I am having like a breakthrough with your example right now. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm going to use this one from now on. I completely love it. But to the point of my question, which I already forgot what my question was. Oh, how you really notice that regulation. I think you've said it right. You notice it also through your clients. And this is the beauty of the work. Every female entrepreneur, especially as a woman that have small businesses, we have a roller coaster going of, okay, emotional roller coaster, mental roller coaster, and a strategy roller coaster. And this is the work that I do at, and this is what the programs that I do are based on. Because at no point we are being taught how to manage our own emotions, but also how to think when the results that we think we are going to have, we plan we are going to have, we desire that we're going to have, don't show up. There is a whole narrative that comes with that, that unfortunately or fortunately only is very, it's like it's stronger when it's a female entrepreneur. Because I have male clients and they're like, shit, what didn't happen? Okay, let's try it tomorrow. It's less emotional. We are emotional beings biologically. So it is so hard. And oh my God, it's beautiful to unpack. So I want to ask you now, how constellations came into this panorama of things.
Okay. Okay. I have one piece, I think, and then I'm going to loop back to this question. So don't let me forget it. I was thinking about I really like the parallel that you were making about like how our body always generates enough blood and we never think about, do I need to get more blood? But we are often scrambling for more resources and for money and feeling like it's never going to be enough. And some of what you were sharing about just the experiences you've had in gender differences of how male clients respond versus like female clients. And I think it's because, again, there's different dynamics we're all navigating in the world. And the more marginalized our identities are, the more stressors there are, and the more difficulty there can be in believing that the world really wants us here and that abundance really wants to show up for us. Which is why I think it's so important, to have practitioners of different ethnicities, racial backgrounds, class backgrounds, gender identities, so that you can actually, it's really different. For example, like it would be different for a trans client to hear me say that money is available versus to be able to hear it from a trans coach who can really reflect their lived identity. The nervous system takes information in when we can see ourselves reflected in the truth. So it's so important to find the right resources. And the thing that's so weird about the nervous system is that when our nervous system is really activated, it's hard to even believe that resources are available. And I think weaving in the constellation stuff, I love family constellation work, period, because it was the first modality. Like, there's this saying that hurt people, right? And this idea that like stuff when people are, again, just like all the different forms of harm or impact or unkindness that can happen in a family occur, it's because there's something higher up in the lineage that has created the context for that. And that's like an intellectual thing. But for me, family constellation work was the first time I really felt it in my body of, oh, this really isn't about me. And there's lots of interesting loyalties. People often think that people don't often recognize the kind of like unconscious agreements that we're often carrying to, for example, remain small or not shine or not receive, particularly if we've come from lineages where there have been people who haven't been allowed to safely receive or haven't been allowed to safely shine or something. And so then our unconscious loyalties keep us playing small and thinking that this is how we need to behave in order to be loyal to the lineage. Like, I'm going to betray my ancestors if I have more than my parents never had it. We're never able to go on vacation. And so here I am planning 4 vacations a year. I'm betraying my people. And I think that's the kind of stuff that we often don't even realize is present. That constellation work really comes in and let's get that stuff out.
Can we just talk about how much, and this is part of the money story that we call, right? It's part of your money story, how much subconsciously you are taking. And let me rephrase that, not how much. 90% of the things that you are taking are coming from your parents. And just like you, their 90% of the things that they do with money are coming from their parents. So therefore your grandparents and so on and so forth. And it just becomes this whole subconscious network of lack if you have always been on the lack and you are subconsciously walking in the lack. And when I say lack, I don't mean physical lack because that is one part of it, but I also refer to the mental lack. I come from a background with a lot of mental lack. My father is a fisherman from Colombia, from an island that nobody knows. And he was the first one to go out and study. All of the brothers gave up on studying so he could go to university. They took him out of the beach, his lovely beach, and they say, okay, you need to go and study. He went for university to study as an accountant. So there is a lot of lack there because although he was the one that made it outside of the island, when he came to the city, like you are just a fisherman. You are like nothing. That is mental lack. Although he created everything for himself, along with my mother and everything, there is a lot of mental lack. There is a lot of you just need to save because right now that you're getting, because there is always another shoe that is going to drop. You need to be ready. And that's the way I grew up. I didn't lack anything physically, but mentally, it's challenging. And then if I tell you the lack that is coming from my family, from my mother's side, it's also mind blowing. I come from a lineage where my great grandparents, I adore. It was my best friend, my great grandpa. We used to sit down and tell his stories, and he never finished high school, never traveled outside of Colombia. But because of him, I travel. He used to tell me stories about how Venice looked like. And I don't know where he read it. I don't know if it was his imagination, but Venice looks exactly like he would tell me. I I got a lot of abundance from that side, but it was a family of 13 kids surviving with whatever the ground, like in that moment in Colombia, it wasn't like you make a lot of money and 13 kids. No money. It's a lot of money with 13 kids. So it's so interesting. I really had to learn about that to allow myself to do different.
My dad also comes from a fishing village. And I think by the time nobody in his generation were fisher folk, but one generation above they were. And and my papa also became an accountant and he hated it.
Wow.
Disaster. It was not the vibe, was not right for his life path. And there's this thing that happens when we're moving from scarcity as opposed to moving from desire, right? And I don't know if this is necessarily true for you, but I know that, like in my Appa's case, he was told by his older brothers that this was what he needed to do, or that he had his dreams of what he wanted to do. And because of what was deemed appropriate at the time and safe, responsible, etc., his older brother, who was at that point the caretaker of the family, said no. If you do any of those things, you'll be cut off and you won't have access to resources. And so he made the quote safer or responsible choice. He cut himself off from his dreams, and it has a really disastrous ending because he's been so unhappy for the rest of his life. And when we think about choices that are made, and this is often the things that happens, or it's like the work that we're looking at in family constellation work of what are the ways that you have made choices for somebody else's sake in the lineage, because this is what your parents said, or this was the dream of somebody else. Somebody else dreamt of getting out of the village and like living this kind of like big life, but that's not actually what you want. What you want is you want to be able to travel, or you want to be able to do this, or you just want to stay and like be a fisher person. You're good. But and then the thing that happens is that scarcity gets embedded in the system, and how you were saying, right? Like then even though you didn't actually physically grow up with scarcity, there was always that scarcity in the brain. Because again, I think because that's what happens when we're moving from fear as opposed to moving from desire, opposed to moving from trust, opposed to moving from really the belief that the universe wants us here and that the universe is on our side, and that money, resources, love, whatever it is, all of those things want to be here for us.
Yes, I couldn't agree more with everything that you're saying. And I think for my father is not a person that I talk a lot because he is very close. For what I know of his story, he did want to become an accountant. And you can see, right? This is what he wanted to be. However, I don't know if the place is where he wanted to be. In an ideal world, he will be his profession, doing whatever he wanted to do back on his town. And I feel that in so many levels, because now that I travel a lot, it got a point where I would say, oh, it would be so nice to be back home with your family or your customs. It's a very like stupid example, very simple, but sometimes I just want to go to my mom's house and know that I'm going to find rice with eggs, which is my favorite plate. And nobody's going to look at me like, are you eating rice with eggs? And like, yes, I'm Colombian. That's the best dish that you can have, right? And you cannot get that from anywhere else, which is not your house, your home, your customs. I understand that in so many levels, but also traveling has opened my mind to understand that the moment that you leave, your identity changes as well. So when you go back, it's not like you're gonna fit in. right? So it's also understanding the differences. And it's the same for him. He says, oh, I want to go back to my beach. Whenever he gets the time to go there, after, I don't know, a month or two, he's okay, I'm missing my home. So he goes back. So I think it's a part of different layers there. But one of the things that I really resonated with you on what you just shared was the fact that everybody is putting their own beliefs, or subconsciously, of course, it's not like consciously this. They are transmitting their desires and their beliefs somehow in your home brain, in your own being. And it's up to you whether you take them on or not. And this is huge with money. It's like, it's a whole new world when you understand that people subconsciously, they're just talking to themselves always. It's always like that. Like, you're not really telling me what to do, because you are thinking from my being. It's no way that you can do that. You are talking from your experience, what was truth for you, and then you, as the person receiving that information, can make a decision. However, because money is so taboo and nobody has questioned it ever before, you take that information as truth. And you don't put your gates up and say, wait, I understand that this person is coming from this background, and that's why it was truth for, let's say, my father. He has lived these experiences, and this belief was what he needed to survive, right? Is not truth for me anymore, because thanks to that, now I'm in a different situation.
I love this. And the thing that popped for me is how much we're always looking for safety. How much, right? The nervous system, the heart is always looking for a sense of both belonging and safety. And one of the things that so the other modality that I use is nonviolent communication. And one of the things that I teach there is that money is not necessarily an inherent need, but it is a strategy to get needs met. And that in our current world, it is a strategy that meets the need for ease, because in the absence of having money, what we need is relationship. And relationship takes time to build and cultivate and trust and all of that. And so when I'm thinking about this thing of safety and some of the narratives that exist around money, whether money being evil, whether you have to work hard for money, that is not true. You don't have to work hard.
No.
You don't have to
No,
do
you
all of those
don't.
things, right? But how some of those myths get formed is because it is, I think, in some ways easier to be able to pin that on money, as opposed to the time it takes to look at where did these beliefs come from.
This is part one of the two-part series episodes about family constellations with Meenadchi. Stay tuned, because next Wednesday, second part is gonna be released. For now, if you're part of the group that is overworking without seeing the money results, the From Overwork to CEO with Money guide is for you. Download it now if you go to themoneymindset.com/CEO. Okay, but before I let you go, did you know that you have a space where your money mindset work is made extra simple, so that you can increase your income, better your relationship with money, and grow your business in such a simple and easy way? Go to themoneymindset.com and choose your path and start making those changes easily and effortlessly. That is themoneymindset.com. Ahora sí, wealthy soul, if you love this episode, don't forget to leave a review down below. It will help me to help more wealthy souls to transfer their money mindset.